Hello and welcome to another Cliff Reviews Art House. This time I'm reviewing the film Maestro, directed by Bradley Cooper. Now, I didn't really know too much about Leonard Bernstein prior to watching this film. When I was a kid, my parents had the LP of West Side Story, so I knew this music very well. I was aware that people talk of Bernstein as if he was a genius, so I was kind of curious to see a film about his life and work. I'd also read that this was a passion project for Bradley Cooper and that he spent about 6 years working on it, and that the film's being discussed as being amongst the Oscar favourites. So all in all, I was quite looking forward to seeing this film. I was really disappointed with it. There are many things which are really impressive about this film, but overall, for me, there were major flaws. The film's set up from the beginning in a way that suggests it's going to explore Bernstein's views on the role of art. It starts with a quote from Bernstein saying that a work of art provokes rather than answers questions. And Bernstein also says in the film that he can't live one day without hearing, playing, studying, or thinking about music. In some ways, I just didn't feel this from the film itself. As an artist, I love films which explore creative inspiration and passion. I also love music, so my expectations were high that I was going to enjoy learning about Bernstein in terms of his genius and his creative inspiration. I recently watched the film Amadeus about the life of Mozart. I'll be doing a separate review on this. One thing I love about Amadeus is that throughout the film we're really given the sense of how the music of Mozart is miraculous, almost divine. There's an incredible scene at the end of the film where we see Mozart and Salieri working together on Mozart's Requiem Mass. It's such a wonderful scene, and I personally find it so inspiring in terms of my own creativity. A bit like what the Rocky films do to me in terms of inspiring me to go to the gym. I thought that this was what the Bernstein film would be about. However, it's not that film. The centerpiece of the film isn't really his music, but rather the relationship with his wife, Felicia. Now, there's nothing wrong in principle with making a film about his life rather than his music. But if you're going to do this, it leaves me with a couple of questions. Firstly, why? Why would you not focus more on his music when this is what he's known for? Secondly, is his life really interesting enough to be the centre of the film? As presented in the film, Bernstein comes across as really selfish and dishonest around his sexuality. I also found that Bradley Cooper's version of him comes across at times as really pretentious and theatrical. I found all of this not that interesting, especially given the fact that the music he created is so interesting. I guess it's possible that some may disagree with me that the music isn't sufficiently featured. We do have several scenes where Bernstein is conducting rousing choral pieces, but it really felt to me that the music was presented as the soundtrack of his life rather than being the centerpiece of the film. This is especially the case in terms of the music he composed, as opposed to when he conducted orchestras playing the music of others. It's remarkable how little West Side Story is included in the film. Given that this is one of his most well-known and popular works, I found it really surprising how little time is given to it. It's barely mentioned, and I think that there's only one time where we hear music from West Side Story, the prologue, but we hear it as a soundtrack to something else happening in the film, rather than being a feature in itself. I just never felt moved by the music or his relationship to it, and this was so disappointing. The one scene where I think we're really supposed to be moved is at the end, where the film recreates Bernstein conducting the London Symphony Orchestra performing Mahler's Symphony No. 2 at Ely Cathedral. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh on Bradley Cooper here because clearly he puts everything into this scene. However, it's interesting comparing this with the clips that you can see on YouTube of the original performance. You really feel that Bernstein is having almost a transcendental experience as he conducts this music, that through music he's experiencing something divine. I just didn't feel this with Cooper's performance. Given the lack of focus in the rest of the film on his music, to suddenly see him so inspired in the film somehow doesn't work. I think that Cooper's performance generally is over theatrical, and this doesn't help. It is really a courageous and bold move to try and recreate that scene from Ely Cathedral, and in many respects the film comes close to doing it. But overall, for me, it felt like it fell far short. It didn't feel authentic in terms of recreating this transcendental moment. Bradley Cooper's performance is certainly full on. It's not impossible that he could win the Oscar for this. Personally, I don't think he should, but it's the kind of performance that often does well with the Academy. I liked Carey Mulligan's performance, although it did feel at times like the film was revelling too much in theatrical pretentiousness in portraying their conversations. Perhaps they really were like that, so this could just be personal taste, but I didn't find their scenes together that compelling. The cinematography is really good, but the shifts between black and white and widescreen and Academy ratio don't feel like they really serve the film. It all looks good aesthetically, but it feels a bit like it's going through the motions in terms of producing a technically competent film. I don't think this is actually a technical problem with the film, but rather that the substance of the film was just somewhat impotent for me, compared to what it could have been if the film had given us a deeper insight into Bernstein as a musician and composer. The cinematography accompanying this could actually have been perfect if this was the case. Instead, it does feel again like it's competent enough to win an Oscar, but falling far short of what it could have been. Would I recommend this film? To be absolutely honest, I'm not sure that I would. It does have all the components of a potentially iconic cinematic classic, but overall I just found it really disappointing in terms of giving us any real insights into Bernstein's musical genius. A real opportunity missed. Thanks for watching. See you next time.